You are listening to the Pencil and Paper Podcast Network.
Hey Ramblers! Today's episode is brought to you by Fangoria. Since 1979, Fangoria has been the authority in the world of contemporary horror. As the only sanctuary for horror aficionados in its early days, it has now grown into an empire that expands beyond its celebrated magazine. From t-shirts, coffee mugs, beanies, enamel pins, there's something for every horror fanatic in your world, even if it's you. So head on over to shop.fangoria.com/pencil and paper productions or use code pencil and paper productions at checkout to get 20% off your first order or magazine subscription. Yes, it is a mouthful, which is why there are links in the show notes down below. That's shop.fangoria.com/pencil and paper productions or code pencil and paper productions at checkout for 20% off. Fangoria, first in fright since 1979.
Buy it or we'll tear your soul apart.
You're listening to the Horror Ramblings podcast, the show about all things horror. We hope you enjoy the show.
Welcome to the Horror Ramblings podcast. I'm not going to say it again because I say it every single week. You guys know what this show is about. Let's be real. It's about horror. Who doesn't love a podcast about horror? I know I love them. I think Steven does. I mean, I know Steven likes a lot of podcasts. I know I'm a little behind on podcasts, but you know, we're that horror podcast. You guys, you love us or you hate us. I'm not really sure. I think some people get on here just to listen and poke fun, possibly. But I'd like to think that there's a lot of people that are like, I look forward to this every week because I look forward to doing the show every week. It's nice to sit and talk with Steven. And sometimes I get surprised and his wife comes on and that's a lot of fun. Get to talk to my wife. But, you know, it's horror. Let's just say that. Steven, how's your morning going? I know you were having some problems. I know I had a few little problems this morning. But other than that, are you happy to be here talking about horror? I hope so.
I mean, hopefully it'll distract me for a little while because I need that. I don't know. It's just, God damn it. I don't want to bring negative energy to the show. I don't like doing that. And it's a little hard when it's right there on the surface already.
I get that.
So I've not had time to calm it down or take it away. So I will try to do my best to get to more positive.
Well, on a positive horror note, I don't know if you have seen any articles about it, but Terrifier 3 is tearing it up at the box office. Its Thursday screenings were crazy good.
I'm really interested to see what comes about with this because our local drive-in is even playing this movie, and I was shocked when I saw they were showing it because I was like, all right, especially around here, okay, you know, you go for it, but I don't see that being, like, I want to see the aftermath on the Facebook comment section to see how many people got upset.
I'm pretty sure that, because I looked it up for showtimes, I'm pretty sure our little theater here in our town is playing it too. And I find that really crazy because I honestly, though, I feel like it's one of those things, a lot of these theaters, and it's for all the wrong reasons, but I think a lot of these theaters are like, you know, we should cash in on this. People are going to come see it because it's shocking. And I feel like that's really what it is. So...
And it was a pretty clever double feature, too. They're showing it along with Joker, so you got two clowns doing their shit. And one's a good movie, and the other is questionable. So that's up to you to decide.
So by the time Joker... So I wonder what order they're doing it in. If they show Joker 2 first, the people can get...
No, Terrifier.
Okay. So you'll get all like, holy crap about Terrifier, and then you'll either love Joker or you'll hate it. I've heard so many mixed reviews. And I've had so many spoilers for Joker and for Terrifier. I had one kind of big spoiler for Terrifier, and it was about someone. But as bad as it sounds, I'll just put it at this: I'm okay with it.
Okay.
I'm okay with the spoiler. I'm okay with what happened. And a lot of people, eventually, we'll both see the movie at some point. I'm sure we'll give it a watch. Yeah. But I'm just, I'm to the point with certain characters and certain people that if they make it cool. If they don't, I really don't care.
I get that.
And I will say this is a bit of a spoiler. The reason that the movie is so crazy in the beginning is, yes, Art does murder a child.
And see, I had that gut feeling because that was the thing that I had heard early on, is people were rushing out, they were throwing up, they were so upset, people were just angry. And when I was hearing that, and this was happening within the first 10 to 15 minutes, I was like, he kills a child.
Yeah.
I even said that on another podcast just the other day, so it will be relevant, because I said I'm not sure what it is. I said, but I guarantee you that's what I think it is.
Yeah.
I guarantee he is killing a child mercilessly, and that was a step too far for people.
And you know, I'm going to say this now because we've had this conversation multiple times about you know, we're okay if that happens in a movie as long as it contributes to the story,
Serves a purpose.
because it needs to happen. With this, as weird as it sounds, it's one of those things where I am okay with it, but I'm not okay with it. Like, I know it's going to be really
Right.
brutal, but I also know that for that character, I feel like you need to show, like, we've seen that character be merciless, but he's never crossed that line, at least not in a way that we've seen. Like, I know Art kills children because in All Hallows Eve, he kills 2 children, but they don't show it. It's all off screen.
Right.
But when you see what's left of them, you're like, damn.
Yeah.
So I hope they don't like overdo the scene. You know, if they show a little bit of violence, I hope they don't overdo it. But I hope that, you know, it's a very fine line, and it's a very touchy thing. And, you know, some of the best slashers out there are slashers that are fond of killing children, like Freddy. I mean, look at Michael. Michael tried to kill his niece for how long?
Yeah.
So,
And he's not ever been, I mean, he's killed a kid too. Don't forget.
Yeah.
He kills children.
like, it happens. It's just we're reaching a new level of brutality in film.
Well, I think it's the shock value. We've talked about that before. They've got to find ways to keep amping it up, and something tells me this is probably the scene, the situation that got under David Howard Thornton's skin that made him maybe feel disgusted, because he said that this movie had something in it that pushed him to the boundaries, and I feel like that would be it.
I would hope so.
Depending on what happened to him or to this child, I feel like mentally you're thinking about it going, I know this is not real, but the thought of it being a child,
well,
this is fucked.
And that's even with one of the first trailers that you see, that first teaser trailer where the little girl goes, Santa, and Art comes up and he's doing his silent laugh and he pulls the axe up, and then they show him in a room covered in blood and he has the word Art written on the wall and he's eating cookies. I'm like, I wonder if we're going to see how all of that played out.
Yeah.
Because that right there is just, it's going to be brutal. I know that. And it's one of those things where I'm like, do I go to the theater and see it, or do I wait?
I'm personally going to wait.
Yeah.
I don't think that it would help to go to the theater, and especially when you don't know what your reactions are going to be, because you could see that scene and get immediately just like, fuck this movie.
Yeah. At least if you're home, you can turn it off and you can you can take a breather and everything.
I mean, you can walk out, but you're going to feel like, God damn it, I wasted my money.
Right.
So you'll stay there out of spite.
I'd probably go do a lot of snack runs, spend a bunch of money. Dude, you've bought like 5 boxes of Reese's Pieces. Don't you start with me. Just give them.
just fuck you.
I almost pulled the trigger. I almost watched Blood and Honey because it's available. The second one is up. It's available for free. I've not watched it yet, but
look, if that's one we want to talk about, okay, I will pull the trigger, because in some fairness, okay, despite the ridiculousness of it all, the second one has kind of piqued my interest just a little.
Yeah.
Because we've heard they actually amped it up. It's actually not that bad. So now I'm intrigued. I was like, okay, now you actually put some effort into it. Maybe I might want to come take a look.
Have you watched the trailer? I know we talked about it. Have you watched the trailer for the Peter Pan horror movie?
I feel like I did, but it just kind of in and out of my head.
Because the trailer for the one that I had seen really looks like it could be a good slasher film, like a psychological type film. If they pull it off right, I think it could actually be something really good. I know that sounds weird, but from the trailer that I had seen, it seems like it could be something unique. And I don't know, I'm kind of for certain children's films being turned into horror films.
If they're all about trying to craft something with a little bit of substance and not just trying to cash grab, I'm all for it. Like, if they can really come up with some interesting stuff, like with the Bambi story, which seems bizarre as fuck, but if they can pull it off, and if they can do something with Peter Pan and make it intriguing enough to want to keep watching, I'm all for it.
Yeah.
But I just, it didn't bode well when Blood and Honey was the first thing that came out, and we saw how quick it was like, oh, well, we got the opportunity, let's do it now. And it just felt like it was a rush job, and sounded like one too. Like there was really no substance to it.
Right. I will say, with the Bambi thing, and I don't know why this just popped into my head, but you know what would be kind of cool for a Bambi movie? Do like a Deep Blue Sea type deal, where they're amping up deer. They're using like some kind of compound, and for some reason the animal that they've decided to test it on is like deer. And maybe Bambi's mom dies in the process. Maybe they're not hunters that took Bambi's mom. Maybe Bambi's mom was taken by these people so they could do experiments, and they catch Bambi eventually. And Bambi meets his mom again, but his mom's, a lot older, and she dies in front of him or something. Like they kill her because they're done with the experiments that they've been doing to her. And Bambi's got more intelligence now, and it just turns into a thing. Like I could see something like that. That could actually be something that could work, I think, if they did it right. But I don't know. Deep Blue Sea is just, it's near and dear to me, and that concept's just fantastic. So
Could be fun.
I'm going to say something too. I know I keep talking to you about watching it, but I did watch the movie Hush again and I forgot something about it. Not only is the author deaf in the movie, she's also mute.
Okay.
And she has what she calls writer's brain. It's what her mom always called it too, where she plays out scenarios in her mind. And and when she's playing those scenarios out in her mind, she can actually like hear herself talking. It's very strange. But you in the movie, you find out that she's not always been that way. She got sick, and that's when she lost her hearing. So she still kind of remembers her voice and her mom's voice.
Gotcha. See, I don't know why I haven't watched it either, because Mike Flanagan directed that, and I love his shit.
Well,
so why haven't I watched it?
And like I said, I watched it again just to sort of see if it still holds up well. Mm-hmm. And it does. It still held up just as fine as I would have expected it to. I enjoyed it just as much as I did when I watched it for the first time. And I like the killer in it because you don't really get a backstory. This guy's just some psychopath who's just out in this area, and he's just killing people. Mm-hmm. And she gives him a run for his money. And like the whole concept of it is that he thinks she can't hear him, so he thinks that she's going to be easy prey, and she's not. And there's some scenes in the film that involve some other people too, where the killer is very meticulous. He thinks things through. There's a scene in particular where there's a guy that's a lot bigger than him, and he makes comments about how if it was a fair fight, there's no way he'd win. But just like little things like that. And like she gets hurt in part of the movie, and she's explaining, like she's talking to herself about, there's no way that I can take him. I'm bleeding out. He's bigger than me. He's stronger than me. He's faster than me. I'm going to have to figure out a way to survive this. But yeah, it still holds up so well. And it's one of those ones that I'm going to be excited to talk to you about, because I think you'll enjoy a lot of aspects of it. And there's scenes, there's even a scene, and I'm not going to talk too much because I don't want to spoil like a lot of the movie for you, but there's even a scene in particular where she's in the house and he's literally right behind her. He's toying with her. She can't hear him at all, and he's right behind, and he's talking to her, and he's making comments like, I bet if I hit the right spot, I could actually make you scream. And like she feels his breath on her neck, and that's what alerts her that he's there. But it's a fantastic movie. And I'll admit, during the time when I watched it, I was sort of, I don't know, I was sort of becoming a fan of the actress that plays the main woman in it. I think she's a very pretty lady, and I think she's a very good actress. I believe she's in The Haunting of Hill House, if I remember correctly. She's one of the children in it, I believe, if I remember right. I'm gonna look it up real quick, actually, while I'm here. Movie's called Hush. Kate Siegel. She's in The Haunting.
Name does ring a bell.
She is in The Haunting of Hill House. She is the you've seen Haunting of Hill House, haven't you? So the sister that has the psychic abilities, the one that can take her gloves off and she can like sense things, it's that sister.
Okay.
Yeah, it's one of those movies that just you really appreciate it once you do get the chance to watch it. Very good movie.
Right.
But here I am rambling on about one movie. You have any news for us today, Stephen?
Yeah, I remember you talking to me about this, and as soon as I saw this headline, I went and bought it, okay? Because I remember you told me about this. Amanda the Adventurer.
Okay.
Do you remember this game?
Yes.
You were telling me about it. It's like an edutainment game, but it's also a horror title. It's coming to, or it has come to PlayStation and Xbox. So I went and bought it immediately for PlayStation.
Okay.
When I saw this. So I can't wait to try this out because it looks like a lot of fun. I remember you telling me about it, and I'm excited because I haven't had a good horror title like that in a while. So maybe we could talk about it here if I get a chance to get through it all, because I don't know. It seems like a unique experience.
It's just it's just childish enough looking to where it's gonna be fun, but it's got that element to it where you're like, oh boy, here we go.
Mm-hmm. So I can't wait. Did you know that Edgar Wright is doing a remake of The Running Man?
I feel like you had brought that up in conversation, but it was very brief conversation that we had about it.
Must have forgotten about it because it's gaining some traction. I think Glenn Powell, who seems to be the new hot thing in Hollywood right now, seems to be the guy taking over the main role. So what is up with this dude? Like, seriously, he just came out of nowhere, and now he is suddenly like the hot ticket. Everybody wants him for the leading man.
Hey, I'm all for it because he is a very talented guy. I'll give him that.
I mean, yeah, I ain't knocking him. I mean, he seems like an affable guy. He seems like a good dude. I guess he's attractive. But I don't know. Yeah, he just seems like he's popping up everywhere. So I'm waiting for him to wind up in the DC universe or the Marvel universe, whoever gets him first.
He's one of those actors that if you see that he's going to be in a film, you at least know that it's going to be good with his performance in it.
Yeah.
It's just like the Skarsgårds. If I see that they're going to be in a movie, chances are I'm probably going to enjoy the movie. Even if it's the dad, if it's one of the kids, I know it's going to be good.
Yeah. I know this has nothing to do with anything, but since we were talking about it, I just saw this headline and I just wanted to bring it up. Apparently, there were eyewitnesses accounts of 2 people passing out in the theater in Australia watching Terrifier 3. So it's goddamn.
Somebody made a good point about that. And they said
they could be faking it or something?
Well, that was the whole thing. They said, back when the original like slashers came out, they would say there's ambulances nearby if people need them, or when The Exorcist come out, people were running up and down the aisles. A lot of that seems like it could be publicity. But if he's doing that for publicity, that's brilliant.
Oh, 100%.
I'll give that to him.
Exorcist level.
Yeah.
Because remember that's how they had to do it. They were like people. They'd have the news crews, and what did you think? Oh, it's terrible. I can't take it. So yeah, it's pretty smart. I never thought about it, but yeah.
I would do it. I would do it if we released a movie. I would do it.
Here's another thing I forgot. I had forgotten that they were making a film version of the video game Until Dawn, which is the kind of choose your own adventure horror game. And apparently it's wrapped. So I guess we might be seeing a trailer here in the next couple of weeks or months, maybe.
I enjoyed that game. I really did. But I will say this. After a while with the deaths, because it was a Wendigo in that, if I remember correctly, it always went for the eyes. It always went for the head. I wish we would have seen a few other deaths. Well, I would have loved to see somebody get gutted or, something like that.
Well, see, I am kind of curious, like, how they're going to do this. Or are they going to be telling one cohesive story just based on the narrative from the game? Like, one through line? Or are you going to do the multiple endings for whatever? Are you going to mix and match?
Right.
Like, I'm very curious how they're going to do this, because for the game, it was a matter of who lives and who dies by the end of it, and how much that might actually change the trajectory of the story going forward. But I don't know. Like, I feel like with this particular type of narrative, you have to teeter a line.
Yeah.
You have to be very, very specific. So I'm curious. And the director, David F. Sandberg, I know I've heard, I think he did Shazam. That sounds right. So I don't know what he's done in the horror genre that would give him the credentials for this. So hopefully it'll be an R-rated movie. I guess that's where I'm trying to go with it.
I'll be interested
They
to
won't pull back.
Yeah, I'll be interested to see what they make the monster look like too. And
Yeah.
as weird as it sounds, I know this is sort of left field, but I just watched another movie not too long ago, and I want to just shout it out real quick because thinking of like lanky monsters and things like that. Go ahead and say what you're going to say real quick. Go ahead.
He did Annabelle Creation and Lights Out, so he's got horror credentials. Continue.
Lights Out was fantastic, and I can't remember Annabelle Creation too much, but from what I remember, I enjoyed it pretty well.
If I'm not mistaken, that was the one I remember people saying was good.
Yeah. But anyways, talking of like monsters and things, I just watched the movie Come Play. I don't know if you've seen anything about that movie.
The name rings a bell, but
it sort of reminds you of this little boy who I think he's, if I remember right, he's like autistic. He doesn't really talk. He uses like a tablet to type his words out and things like that.
Mm-hmm.
But this story loads up on his tablet about this monster whose name is Larry, and Larry wants a friend. And the whole thing, like the movie plays out. Not a bad movie. It was okay. Like I enjoyed it pretty well. But I will say this much: the creature design, they used CGI and puppetry for the creature design. And if you get the chance to look up the monster from it,
mm-hmm.
I think they did a phenomenal job with it. I mean, they even there's a scene where it's walking, and it's puppetry that they're using for this scene. But they built these big, gnarly feet with these long, crooked toes. You're watching this thing, and you're like, that's disgusting. But it was awesome at the same time. So I hope when they do, to kind of come back to Until Dawn, I kind of hope they do something sort of in the vein of that monster from that movie, because it was super cool. And I will say that. And I will also say that movie's got one of the most, not the whole ending, but there's a scene where somebody makes a deal with Larry. That kid's going to need therapy after seeing what he sees in that scene. That kid's going to need therapy. I'm just going to say that. Because if I was a child and I saw what that kid saw, I would need therapy. And it's one of those moments in a horror film where you're just like, that was fucked up. So just wanted to put that out there real quick.
What else we got here? Do you remember The Faculty from the 90s?
That is a guilty pleasure movie of mine, actually.
Oh, it's coming to 4K this December, so mark your calendar.
Can't
I haven't seen that one in a long time, so I'd have to revisit it.
It's just it's a teen drama that has aliens in it. That's the way I look at it. But
yeah, I kind of remember the alien angle, yeah.
But it's not bad. I mean, there's a lot in it that's, I would have loved to have seen it as a series, like if they redid it like as a series and really lengthen it out a little bit, tell some more stories. I feel like it's in the same vein as The Thing, because it does different things to different people.
Yeah.
So
I don't know if we've touched on this before, but I feel like maybe it got brought up, where I Know What You Did Last Summer is also getting a reboot movie, which, as I understand it, this seems like a legacy sequel reboot, because as I understand it, what's his name? Freddie Prinze, I think, was coming back. So, and he was one of the original. Why didn't they get the what's her name? Oh Christ, brown hair. She was the star. She was in that show, Party of Five. I know her name. God damn it, she's got. Oh God, you know who I'm talking about, right?
I know who you're talking about.
I see her face clear as day. I can't think of her fucking name, and I know I've got an internet in front of me. I should look at it.
Well, I know Sarah Michelle Gellar was in it. Jennifer Love Hewitt was in it.
Her, Jennifer Love Hewitt. Thank you so much. Sarah Michelle Gellar has also said she's spoken up about coming back, and she's like, I was dead. So, that's probably not going to happen.
She said she would love to do some behind-the-scenes stuff if they wanted her to. I do know that.
Why not?
It'd be funny if she was like I know she wouldn't be a stunt double for someone, but if she had even like a cameo where she was just like an extra, that would be kind of cool.
Oh, yeah. Just put her off in the background somewhere. I think they even said that Matthew Lillard was an extra in Scream 2. He was a background character. And they say if you pay attention, you can see him at one of the parties or something like that. And you're like, oh, shit, there he is.
I'm actually really excited for him to be coming back for the Five Nights at Freddy's sequel.
You think they'll ever revive him in Scream? Because I feel like they're going to pull that out of their ass with this new one.
I feel like it is something they could do, but as bad as it sounds, if they were to do that, he could come back. I think he could possibly come back. He'd be really messed up. But I think...
Yeah, I don't see how the fuck he couldn't be, because, I mean, you drop a TV on somebody's fucking head.
Yeah. and all you people listening that are younger than us by any considerable amount of time, TVs back then were very heavy.
Yeah, heavy.
That
some bitch was not going to snap in two when it fell on the floor.
Yeah, let's just put that out there. It put a hole through the floor. Let's put it that way.
Yeah, easy.
If they brought him back, I know this sounds awful, but if they brought him back, I would love for him to kill Sydney.
I mean, at this point, why not? Damn.
Like, one last fight, the original survivor against one of the original killers. Let them kill each other.
Yeah, why not? Yeah.
That would be an epic
Perfect
way
ending.
to end it.
But they won't.
And if they did that, you know what they could do then? They could leave it live for a little while. Then they could reboot it, and people could reboot it based off of every movie gets a reboot. And they could go from there, and they could be like, you're going to be the new final girl, and everything else. I don't know why I'm doing a weird Ghostface impression while I'm saying this stuff, but...
It just works.
You know, I mean, come on. That would be... I'm sorry, that would just be an epic ending. And they could tie up loose ends if they wanted to throughout it at some point. But come on, give us something else. If you're bringing Sydney back, just off her already. Again, that's no offense to the actress. Love her, think she's great. Used to have a crush on her when I was a kid. Come on.
But it doesn't work anymore.
Yeah.
It is so... Like, this is not being haunted by a ghost that will not go away. This is a human being... multiple human beings who have terrorized this woman enough.
And it would just, it would be, because Matthew Lillard was a presence on screen. He really was. Like, he was something else. So to imagine all these, like, young kids or all these people starting to get killed by another Ghostface killer, but it feels different. This Ghostface feels quicker. He feels like he's not toying with them as much. He's getting to the kill because Ghostface is older. He's kind of fucked up because he had a TV dropped on him all those years ago. To see that and see a much just more brutal Ghostface who's just all about the kill, doesn't want to toy with them. The only one he really wants to toy with is Sydney. I wouldn't care if I saw it from a mile away that it was him. Just to see him take the mask off and be like, come on, Sid, for old time's sake. And they just go at it. Come on. I mean, there's something about that would be, it would just be satisfying.
No, I could agree. I want to touch on some reviews real quick that I've been seeing for Hellboy, and even that one movie that's on Hulu, the Mr. Crockett, because I think I'd said something about Mr. Crockett one of the last episodes where I'd seen a review that was bad, but then I saw a review just the other day that actually was pretty positive about it. It said, you know, it lacks a few things, but it's actually a pretty solid little movie. Wish they'd have done some things, but I really enjoyed it. So it may be one of those mixed bag things. Same with this other one that I'm going to bring up, which is Hellboy the Crooked Man. It only got a digital release here in the States. I don't know about everywhere else, but I've been seeing a lot of mixed reviews. Some people are like, this is great. This is exactly what it needed, just to kind of inject some kind of fresh perspective. And then other people are like, this is so horrible and low budget and crappy and feels like a fan film, blah, blah, blah. So I think with these two movies, just whatever you're feeling, man, just go in. Don't worry about other people's opinions, as you should. But just give it a shot.
Yeah.
You know, both of them. See if they are for you, because clearly no one's on the same page with those two.
Everyone has their own flavor, and I saw a really good review. It's the review that I kind of I stopped after I read it for the new Hellboy. Somebody said, "Yeah, I'm still hopeful that someday we will get a third installment with Ron Perlman. Like, I would love that." They said, but for what this movie is, it brings up a lot of the comic book lore, and yes, it might have its faults, but it's actually a fun movie.
Yeah.
And that's all the person said. They didn't dog on it. They didn't say anything like super negative. Mr. Crockett, I've only seen like 2 or 3 reviews. I think most of the reviews that I've heard have been about us talking about it. So,
okay,
pick your flavor, people.
So there's a documentary series that I have seen around, but I guess I did not realize what it was. And now I'm intrigued. Now I want to watch this. And now I'm upset that I have not seen any of these. But have you heard of the In Search of Darkness series?
It sounds familiar.
Documentaries.
But I don't know a lot about it.
I didn't either. But there's a new one coming up. and it's called In Search of Darkness, 1990 to 94. Apparently, these are deep, deep, deep fucking dives into horror movies. And I'm talking all of them. How deep? Each documentary, this would be the fourth or fifth, and they're all somewhere between 3 to 4 to 5 hours long. So deep, deep, deep.
Whoa.
Yeah. So I want to watch these because I want to see what they're fucking talking about. The trailer for this alone, because it's the 1994 era, of course I remember that era of horror. And then I'm seeing all these movies that I know, and I'm sitting there going, oh my God. And then you're seeing people talking about these movies that you know, and just, I got to watch this. I can't wait. So it's a Kickstarter right now. They're trying to get some things. They're offering up some stuff. I could only find one to watch, or at least available to watch like right spanking now if I wanted to go watch it, and it's on Shudder, and I think it was In Search of Darkness 3. 2 I couldn't find anywhere. The first one I had to pay for, and I feel like there was another one that was absolutely unavailable. So this is a series I'm going to keep my eyes on, and I'm ashamed that I have not heard or looked into this sooner, because this is up my wheelhouse. I am so excited about this to the point where I am planning to watch this, okay? Like setting up an entire day, because I got puzzles that I like to do when I'm watching documentaries, and it kind of keeps, because I don't really have to pay attention to it, I just listen. So I've planned a week where I'm going to watch these documentaries and do some puzzles, man. I'm so excited.
If only I could take that week off, I'd come watch it with you. That would be cool too.
Like I said, I've got it all planned in my head, what I want to do. I
like puzzles too, so you could give me a different puzzle to do, and we can just sit there in silence if you want. But man, that would be awesome to do.
Yeah.
Jesus. So, I'm going to have to look these up now.
Seriously, I've realized that's something that I enjoy doing. I don't know if I've mentioned it here or anywhere else before, but just being sitting down with a puzzle, 500 pieces seems good enough for me. You know, I've tried the 1,000-piece puzzles. They get on my nerves. They take forever. So 500-piece puzzle, I'm good. You know, don't need more than that. It's challenging enough. It'll keep you busy for a while. And then the documentary's going off in the background. I think the last time I did that was back in July. I think Katrina had gone to Ohio, so I was here. And during that week, I turned on the TV. I think there was a Simpsons documentary, about 8 hours long, because they broke it up into 1-hour chunks. And I just sat here doing puzzles, you know, listening to the documentaries, went through so many. I enjoyed myself because I learned so much and had fun doing puzzles.
Nothing wrong with that.
I think I've realized a hobby that I enjoy, but I have to have a documentary. I can't have something that I have to really pay attention to watch. You know what I mean? If it's something where they're just talking about stories or whatever, and then I can kind of glance at it, that's fine. Yeah. It can't be something that demands my entire attention because I'm focused on the puzzle.
It's almost like when I would be driving really far distances, I'd put on a podcast.
Yeah, 100%. Same thing.
Same thing, yeah.
Let's see. Oh, Velma got canceled. I don't know if you ever watched that or not.
Oh, I'm so surprised. No.
I'm honestly surprised it got 2 seasons, to be honest. I mean, Jesus Christ.
How do you fuck up Scooby-Doo? I'm sorry.
By doing what they did with Velma.
It's like, come on.
Again, I appreciate them trying to do something unique, but those were some drastic variations of those characters. And I feel like it pushed them so far out of what people knew that it was so jarring that it was like, nah, I don't like this. And they've done variations on the characters, sure, but I feel like that was way too far out into left field, and it never felt true to who the characters were.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And I think that's what turned a lot of people away, is because they're like, this is not Scooby-Doo. And I understand it's not Scooby-Doo, but you have to have some essence of the characters within those characters that people know and have known for 50 years.
You know, they should have done... That company should have done some little like hour specials. They could have done Velma, they could have done Scoob, they could have done Shaggy, and told a story about all of them before they joined Mystery Inc. They could have made it a more like adult version and then create a new Mystery Inc. show where they solve cases and make it a darker show. And that would have been perfect.
I honestly think that was what they should have done. I think that was the conceit that people were kind of thinking. It's like, okay, a little bit edgier, R-rated Scooby-Doo. Fucking A, we're all for it. But it bastardized the characters.
Yep. Have you ever heard that have you ever heard that Matthew Lillard kind of wants to do another Scooby-Doo movie, and he wants to make it because all the people that watched it as kids in the first place, they're all adults now, but he wants to do a kind of darker Scooby-Doo, and I'm like, that would actually be kind of cool to see.
I think done right, it could be fun.
Yeah, 100%.
You know, you can do like a dark comedy Scooby-Doo. It would sell. You know, again, as long as you're keeping true to the characters, it'll work.
Yeah.
I mean, Christ, they kind of did it with Supernatural. We saw that where they did their little crossover. So you dabbled in it. Give it a go. Give it the old college try, as they say.
Scooby-Doo gets the best crossovers, though. They got that, and they got, not too long ago, they got Courage the Cowardly Dog, which a lot of people loved Courage the Cowardly Dog, and I remember saying that when I first watched Courage the Cowardly Dog. He should meet Scooby-Doo. And
that was a crossover that was long overdue. Like,
yeah.
Why didn't they think of this shit sooner?
And I'm pretty sure the woman who did Muriel's voice, the old lady in Courage, I'm pretty sure that was the last thing she did before she passed away. I remember right. They did the crossover.
I think you're right, yeah.
So.
What was his name? Eustace Bass.
Yeah, Eustace. Your typical old guy. Stupid dog.
Stupid
you
dog.
made me look bad.
Yeah, stupid dog. Speaking of shit that got canceled, I guess fans are trying to get Chucky to come back. Good luck, but I just don't think any studios... It's really sad, too, to think that there's not a streaming service out there that thinks, why not? You know, who's it hurting?
Well, and unfortunately, it's one of those things where even when some of these studios are like, come on, let's have it. Let our streaming service have it. Whoever has it at the time, they're like, no, because we want to make any nickel that we can off of it. And, you know, it's sad that it boils down to that, because I think there are a lot of shows that would be picked up by other streaming services if it didn't cost so much to purchase them, purchase the rights to them from another service.
Yeah.
So it's unfortunate that it happens, but...
Here's a fucking random detail. Do you remember an old... Like, this is really not horror-related, but I just have to bring it up because it's so fucking random. Do you remember an old Sega game called Shinobi?
Yes, I do. Yes.
Well, apparently, it's been picked up by Universal to adapt into a film. Why? I don't know. It feels long overdue, but all right.
Okay.
So, be excited for that, maybe? Question mark?
Trust me, I'm hoping to get some extra cash, speaking of video games, because part of my childhood has come back in the form of a different title now, but I used to play... I'm just going to do it. It's not horror-related, but I used to play a video game called Dragon Ball Z Budokai Tenkaichi 3. It was a fighting game, and at that point in time, it had pretty much every single Dragon Ball Z, Dragon Ball, and Dragon Ball GT character you could think of in it. It was a great fighting game, had all these characters. Well, they just released a game called Sparking Zero, and it's basically the same thing. It has just about every character you can think of, and I have a lot of good memories of playing the game that I just mentioned before. I have a lot of really good memories playing as like the weakest characters and going up against the strongest characters just to see if we could win. And I've been dying to do that again. And the game's like $80 to get like the standard version of it.
All right.
So I'm waiting because that's a lot of money to spend on a game. So,
sure. Yeah. No, I get it.
But just putting that out there.
Speaking of video games, I don't know if you saw this, but I spotted a trailer for this last night, and since we've already been talking about it, there is going to be a Terrifier video game, a beat-em-up, where you can play as one of 4 characters. Art, the little girl Art, and then 2 other characters who I guess were maybe from the new film because they didn't look familiar to me at all, but just some gangly, just gnarly fucking characters. I didn't really look into it all that deep. I just saw some gameplay. It looks like Scott Pilgrim versus the World or Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. It's just a beat 'em up, but you get to beat the fuck and kill people as Art the Clown. So that sounds like something that would be up your alley. It's I don't know if it's available yet or not. I have to... If I stumble across a release date, I'll let you know because I can't remember.
Art is taken over. He is.
He's really solidifying himself as an icon. So you were right on when you said it, man. He's making his mark. Frankie Frico, that movie that I want to check out. That's from the guy who did Psycho Gorman.
Yeah.
It's going to be on digital on October 25th, so in a few weeks from now. So I'll probably be getting that almost immediately because I can't wait to check it out. Steven Kotansky is his name. Sorry, the director.
You'll probably check it out before I get the chance to, so you'll have to let me know how it is. Because
if we get a chance to talk about it, review it on here, we will. Because,
oh yeah.
I'm looking forward to it. I need to watch more of that guy's stuff because Psycho Goreman is just.
Oh.
I've talked about it so much on the show. I'm sure people are tired of hearing it.
It's phenomenal. I'm glad I took. I'm pretty sure I didn't have my Shudder at the time because something weird happened. I know what it was. My card had gotten hacked, and so I had to reset everything, and I got Shudder back. And I think that was the first movie I watched because talk about selling a movie to someone. You sold that movie to me. Like every time we talked about it, you're like, you got to watch it. You've got to watch it. It's great. And I'm glad I watched it because it's hilarious.
Oh yeah. A lot of fun. I even got one of my daughters to watch it the other day because she hadn't seen it, and I was like, stop what you're doing. Go watch this right now. I said, and just let me know. And, of course, she came back. She's like, oh, God, this is my new favorite thing. She even watched it twice and did some art of the main character. So I was like, all right, perfect. What is that? No, I don't want to talk about that. I'm trying to find if I can come across that video of the killing game, the thing that I was just talking about, so I can get a date. Oh, here's a game that I'll touch on real quick. Have you ever heard of a game called Slayaway Camp?
Briefly, I have.
Now, if you're unfamiliar with it, I played it, I think, as maybe a Steam game, and then I got it on mobile. I feel like it's better as a mobile game, but I can understand why people would want to play it on your PC or whatever. But it's like a puzzle game, but you're playing as a Jason-type looking killer. He has kind of a mask that looks like a skull, but it kind of looks Jason-y or whatever.
It's a puzzle game.
Yeah.
I have played it, yes.
Yeah, the character, there's victims set up around this area, whatever the campsite or the whatever. You get the situation. Things are set up. People are ready to be killed. You have to move in certain ways to kill each one, and they can't escape. And then once you finally get some are very easy, some you have to think on, because if you move a certain way, you might scare them, and then they'll run off, and then they'll run away. It's very, very clever, but there's a sequel coming out. It's coming out at the end of the month, October 28th. So I'm looking forward to it because it's a very fun puzzle game. In fact, if you have Netflix, you should be able to download. I don't know how their subscription thing works with their games, but where Netflix is doing games now, Slayaway Camp, the first one, should be on their app. So if you have Netflix on your phone, go in there and see if you can find that game and check it out, because it's a lot of fun. It'll definitely, especially if you're a horror aficionado like us, it'll hit all the right notes, because you'll see the little winks and nods to things that you know, and you'll be like, I see what you're doing. That's
great.
Clever.
It's great for a laugh. It definitely is.
Here we go. Art the Clown gets his own video game, and Terrifier the arcade game. Arcade. Anyway, yes, pays tribute to Splatterhouse, Double Dragon, Battletoads, Streets of Rage, yada yada. You get to play as... Where are the characters? 4-player local co-op, and you get to play as... It's the one bitch who ripped off her face.
Oh, she was originally a victim.
Yeah.
I know who you're talking about.
I was trying to look in here to see if they listed the characters, and I'm sure they have, and I just don't see them for whatever reason. Doesn't matter. You know who I'm talking about. The little clown girl, bitch with no face, Art, and then some other guy. And let me see if I can see what he looks like. They even had like a little animated opening for it too, so in the trailer, so that's something you might have to check out, because it's kind of neat. Because Katrina saw it and she's like, are they making an anime of this? And I was like, no, it's just an animated sequence for the game, I'm sure. Not going to be that awesome. I don't know who this other guy is, so maybe I don't remember the movies well enough. You might know who it is. I'll share the trailer with you so you can check it out. Doesn't matter. We'll talk more about it later. Anyway, that's a thing that's happening. It's coming out next year, so it's not out yet.
In time for Terrifier 4. I'm sure there's going to be another Terrifier.
Well, he has spoken up about it and said that maybe one more, and then that'll be it, because he doesn't want to overdo it, which is smart. This is a character that's his, and it could easily wind up in the studio's hands, and they would be pumping him out every year. So hopefully it stays within Damien's hands. Yeah, the 4K release of Trick or Treat. Arrow's showing some pictures over there. I'm looking for that. And then we've got the Stephen King movie, The Monkey, coming. A new trailer, or a trailer should be coming next week for that. I think that's the one directed by Oscar Perkins.
Okay.
So
Okay.
I'm looking forward to seeing what that looks like. There's a new documentary about our final girls. I don't know if you saw this or not. In fact, I'm just kind of looking at it right now. Is this an article or is this a thing? No, that's not a thing. That's an article. I don't want to read an article. If it's not a movie, making me read and shit. That's it. That's all I got. I don't see any other things. There is okay. Well, since this is a headline. Did you see the Not Safe for Work Terrifier 3 music video from Ice Nine Kills?
No, but I've heard a lot about it.
I might have to check this out.
Yeah.
Yep. This video is age restricted and only available on YouTube. Ooh, it's 15 minutes long.
Jeez Louise.
God damn, why is it so long? Oh, well, it looks like maybe there's some behind the scenes stuff after the fact.
Probably really violent.
There's some, I don't know if it's a scene out of the movie. Some guy, I'm not really watching, I'm just kind of fast forwarding through it. It looks like you have a music video and Art's walking through a whole crowd of people or whatever, and then it looks like he kills them all. Great. And then you cut to a boardroom. I guess they were watching the video, and then they're talking to some guy, and then it just goes on and on and on for... That's a lot. And then says to be continued at some point. Okay, so we might have to check that out. But yeah, that's all the news I got. That's for today.
Well, since we've gotten through the news, I feel like this is a conversation that is long overdue.
Mm-hmm.
We're talking about Abigail today.
Abigail.
Which was a pleasant surprise for me.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not sure what your stance is on it. If I remember right, you said you enjoyed it fairly well.
I did. I think we already knew what we were getting before we got in there. I understand that there was an attempt to do some backtracking on some details that got released from the start because the marketing did not at any point in time reveal, spoilers, 3, 2, 1 going forward, that she was Dracula's daughter. But as we've stated on this podcast before, in fact, I can tell you the exact episode. You go all the way back to, I think it was the Freaks episode with John Brennan. We had brought this up. We said Radio Silence was doing a movie based on Dracula's daughter.
Yeah.
And then suddenly it was just like, no, they're doing some vampire movie. And I was like, but fuck you. We know what's happening. So everybody started being like, no, we didn't say Dracula's daughter. Shh. But it was, we knew. We broke it right here, along with the other news outlet in which we read it from. So it wasn't a shock. But even in that regard, knowing that that was something we knew going in, it still didn't detract from the enjoyment of the film. Because the whole setup is just very original in the sense of, I can't think of another film like this.
Right. With
this very particular setup. Kidnapping, and then your victim is your problem.
Right. I have to admit, too, I love the whole angle of the film so as we're focusing on Abigail, who is brilliantly played by, I think her name's Alicia Ware. I'm hoping I'm pronouncing that right.
Sounds good.
Wonderful performance from her. I think she's only she's not very old.
12. I think she was 12.
If I remember right, she was like 11 or 12 in the film. Terrific.
I was going to...
Yeah, go ahead.
Well, no, I was just... Go ahead and say what you got to say, because I thought of something I want to add to that, but continue.
I feel like she did a fantastic job in the film. Really great at switching from innocent to just monster, and that's hard for a lot of kids to do. And she's a cute kid. She just looks like a cute little girl. So to see her make that change, you're like, okay, this is something else. But the whole angle of the film where everyone that is brought to the house to be killed by her are people that have done her dad wrong, and that they kind of focus on the wealth of Dracula. We'll just call him Dracula. His name's Lazar. I like that name, though. I do like the whole Christophe Lazar. I like Lazar as a name. I love how they sort of focus on he's the leader of a huge crime family, but he's been around for all these years, and that's where he's made a lot of his money. We never talk about that part of Dracula, not a lot. We talk, they talk about, him owning a lot of property and stuff like that, but to think of him as like some kind of crime lord, it really makes sense to me.
Yeah.
And it's a great angle.
Well, what I wanted to say about the child, because that, as you mentioned it, like as you said it, it just occurred to me, there's no way she could play this character again, or at least not realistic from the sense she's a fucking vampire, but you know what I mean. Like, she has the appearance, she's supposed to be stuck at that age. It would be very, very difficult to do that again with her if she's at that age and could easily sprout up like an age easy, quick.
Unless
it's a sad thing.
Unless they did another movie fairly soon, or if they figured out a way to change it up a little bit, explaining the story, because some vampires can change forms. They can exist in many different forms. And another thing I enjoyed about this movie is there's a part in the movie where Abigail is talking to Frank, who's a piece of shit, who thinks he can turn Joey into his little puppet. She makes that comment about you don't get to learn all the really cool shit until you've been a vampire for a very long time.
Yeah.
So they could angle it in a way where Abigail's learned to use her vampirism to change her appearance. If they explained it the right way, it could work. If they didn't, it would destroy the film. Just saying. But they could do something like that if they wanted to. I do hope if they do a sequel to this that it's something that they would do relatively soon. And maybe they could kill Abigail off. I know that sounds messed up. I would love to see a film where Abigail comes to Joey for help because she wants to escape her father. And maybe they're trying to kill her father, and maybe in some turn of events, Abigail and her dad kill each other or something like that. And that's another thing I want to bring up just real quick. Sorry to interrupt you.
No, go ahead.
I was just going to say, Matthew Good, that man can play a vampire.
He's one of those actors I forget about, but then he'll pop back up in something, and I'll look at him for the longest goddamn time going, I know who that is. Why can't I think of his name? And then when I see who it is, I'm like, oh, of course. Like, one of the last things I saw him in before this, and you talk about playing a character, dude. He was in this show on Paramount. Funny enough, and I think that was on the same... No, this came on Peacock, wasn't it? Anyway, it doesn't matter. I don't know why I'm going down that rabbit hole. Anyway, he was in this show called The Offer, which was about the making of The Godfather. And he played a producer by the name of Robert Evans. I've heard that name before. I knew kind of his... the attitude. Like, I've never really seen any video footage of him that I can ever recall, but I know of the guy. And, of course, he's just there, like, playing this guy like... I mean, what you would expect him to be, like, to the letter. And I'm sitting there going, God damn, this guy's awesome. Like, he was one of my favorite people in that entire show just because of the energy he was exuding as Robert Evans. It was insane. So, I love it.
It made me laugh because before I watched him in this as a vampire, I kept seeing clips from a show. I was on, like, TikTok or somewhere, and I was seeing clips from a show called The Discovery of Witches.
I've heard of it, yeah.
And there's a guy in a suit that comes in, and he goes, I'm a vampire. And he gets into this whole thing. He's like, yes, I can go out in the sun. I'm a Catholic. And when I sleep, I prefer to sleep on a bed as opposed to a coffin. And he has this, the way somebody described it, they're like, he just has this aura to him that you like him as a character. But he's playing a vampire in these clips I'm seeing. Well, the other day, I stumbled upon the clip again, and I'm like, I know this guy. I swear I know this guy. So I looked up The Discovery of Witches. I saw his name. I clicked him, and I was like, duh, he played the vampire in Abigail as well.
I'm telling you, he's a chameleon, dude. He just shows up, and you're like, I know him.
I honestly want more of him as this character. If they did like a spin-off movie where they talked about his crime life and everything as Lazar,
yeah,
I could get behind that. Like, I really could.
So I do want to touch on that real quick before we go too deep, because for clarity's sake, as you said, he is listed as Christophe Lazar. So the Dracula element, maybe they did remove that at some point. But still, when you say Dracula's daughter, it's already out there. The spoiler is out there. But for clarity's sake, I want to make sure that we're not misrepresenting this film, because I'm sure we'll get people saying, well, it's not Dracula. I got it.
I will say this, though. When she calls him Lazar, when Joey calls him Lazar at the end, he's walking up to her and he goes, I've gone by many names over the countless eons. He could be Dracula, just going by another name.
And there is a little trivia bit here that makes me think he very well could be. Because, as we said, it was originally titled Dracula's Daughter. And then they said, well, no, we're going to not make it that. And then, of course, Universal was coming out saying that this was not part of any shared universe, no connections to any other movies that were coming out. They're doing filmmaker-driven films. What a novel fucking concept. Allow the filmmakers to make a goddamn movie. So, they're allowing these filmmakers to come in and do these horror movies, no matter what it is, as long as it's solid story characters. So they came to them with this idea, officially retitled it Abigail, then said that they wanted to avoid mentioning Dracula as a way to set it apart. Fair. And they had considered that Abigail's father had killed Dracula. But then they were just like, no. And they changed their mind. So if that's the case, he's Dracula. As you said, he's gone by many names, and it's a very specific line. So if you did not want to put that in, you are making sure you didn't put that problem in the way. You have just said, if we want him to be Dracula, we can. We're not stopping ourselves from changing that.
You know, you just made me think of something else that could be cool as a film. I know Lazar has a lot of sources, but what if he had trapped Dracula? What if he was one of Dracula's right-hand men? And what if Dracula had gotten free and he wanted Abigail to be safe, so he took her to the most unlikely place to be safe because the only person that they know they could trust was Joey? Get another film out of that. And then they could kill Abigail off. Dracula could find everybody. Some crazy shit could go down. I mean,
sure.
I like the thought of him being Dracula, though, a little bit more, I think.
And the idea that you just had, I feel like for some reason I have this recollection like I brought this idea up here before.
I think you have, because right after I said it, I'm pretty sure we've talked about this before.
Yeah, because there was this idea that I had long ago, probably about 20 some odd years ago, where it was this, because I was obsessed with vampires at the time for whatever goddamn reason. And I thought, wouldn't it be cool if vampires ruled everything? So there was a hierarchy of vampires. You had the rich vampires, and then you had the more, poor vampires. And then, of course, the fancy vampires, the rich ones that were all normal looking. And you get into the more grotesque ones, and they're the sewer dwellers or whatever. But again, humans are cattle. There's a whole story involved. But the big thing was that Dracula was being held captive by these heads of this council, or like these big vampires, but they're like, he's the originator. If he dies, fuck that. But he's also very powerful, so fuck that. Yeah. He can't be in charge. We're in charge. So a very fine line of how that works.
Two things real quick. One, you just need to write Abigail 2. And two, the internment camp, people as cattle. I know they've done that in a few movies like Daybreakers. But they also did that in the series The Strain, and it was really fucked up because there was a council of vampires that wanted to just remain in the shadows and still find people to feast upon. But one of those vampires broke away. He liked what the Nazis were doing, and so he wanted to create internment camps for humans and have vampires run like what Hitler wanted for Germany. Okay. And speaking of The Strain, which is another thing that I really want to talk about on the show, we need to watch. I've watched the whole thing, but I need to get you to watch it because they are disgusting vampires. They are like, blech.
I'm disappointed in myself looking over this and not really. Did they mention that they were using the group that kidnapped her, that they were using the names from the Rat Pack?
They make a comment about it because somebody mentions, somebody calls one of the guys Rickles.
Yeah.
And he's like, who the fuck is, because they make a comment about Don Rickles, and he's like, who the fuck is Don Rickles? And they kind of chuckle about it.
See, what the fuck? How did I miss that? Because I'm looking over it now, and I'm like, it's clear as day.
Yeah.
Like Frank Sinatra, Don Rickles, Sammy Davis Jr., Dean Martin, Joey, what's his name? He had some issues. Joey
Wasn't like Diaz or anything like that.
No, he was the trouble one out of the pack.
It'll come to us at the most random time.
Yep.
I can't. What I was gonna say though, talking about the strain, one of my favorite characters
Bishop.
from the there you go.
Joey Bishop.
One of my favorite characters from the strain is actually in this movie too. Kevin Durand, who plays Peter, the muscle guy.
What a dude! What a dude that
Love
guy is.
him.
Like, I love when he shows up and stuff.
Yeah, he's there's just something about him, and it's kind of funny because I feel like his character in this, in a sense, sort of echoes the character that he played in The Strain, because he was like a big, strong Russian guy. In The Strain, he's an exterminator, kills rats and shit, but he starts killing vampires and he gets really good at it.
Yeah.
I will tell you right now though, if you watch The Strain, you'll probably end up watching it alone, because one of the main characters in it is the I cannot think of his name, but he's the guy that played Argus Filch in Harry Potter. He's also notorious for killing all of the Starks in Game of Thrones at the Red Wedding.
Yep.
He's a great character though in this in The Strain. But yeah, as soon as I saw Kevin Durand, that was actually a big selling point for me in this movie. I just love to watch the dude with vampires, and I love in this he's just this big, strong guy that's not the brightest, and he gets called out on it, and he gets shot, which is even funnier. And when he gets shot, he's like, "I can't believe you shot me!" Like, come on.
I'm just looking back over his filmography. I feel like I've watched him in a lot of things, but it felt like it had been a while since I'd seen him, and I guess it had. Like, I know of these movies, I just never watched them, so that's on me. But
he's in Planet of the Apes, isn't he? He's one of the apes, isn't he?
He was in the Kingdom of the Planet of the Apes. He was the main bad guy in that.
That's what I thought.
Proxima Caesar. Yeah, I remembered seeing his name attached, and I was like, I wonder who the hell he is. And then I found out that's who he was. And I was like, I'll be goddamn, that's awesome.
And anybody that wants to look at the cast of this film, I feel like it's a solid cast. If you've not heard of these actors and actresses, you've at least started to see them in more places. I do want to give a shout out to some people might have missed it on their radar. Angus Cloud, who played Dean, he's unfortunately passed away. A lot of people might not know that. He had some personal issues, I guess, and he ended up overdosing, I guess. I really liked him in this movie, though. I thought he was a funny character. Just something about him. He seemed like he was probably a nice guy in real life. Just had some struggles. So I just want to give him a shout out and, tell anybody out there struggling, get help if you need it, guys.
And plus, also, I mean, I don't know if this is related to that or not, just kind of looking into it because, I remembered hearing about it, but I was just a little curious as to what it was. There's a little detail here. It says he had suffered some brain damage back in 2013. Not saying it's related, but I have heard in the past of people having an accident and they have some brain damage and their entire personality flips. There was a guy on, and I can't remember the character name. Do you remember that show Sons of Anarchy?
Yes.
I think he was their, what do they call it? Their little bitch, their probie or something like that. Wasn't that right? Their
something like that, I think.
Probationary person. Because he was like the lowest guy on the totem pole. Like
Yeah.
he had to be their bitch, right? And whatever it was, like he had been in an accident at some point, and they said it was like whatever happened, the brain damage like completely flipped who he was, and he was not the same person.
Yeah.
So he turned into some violent drug addicted person. So could be in the same vein. Like that brain damage could have done something to him that he could not, deal with. So that's fucked, man. That's a shame.
Yeah, he could have had a very bright career ahead of him.
Yeah. The one that another one that stands out here. There's actually several. I mean, Giancarlo Esposito obviously was one that we were all excited about because we thought maybe he could have been the Dracula, but it's fine. He's still a criminal mastermind. He still did amazing stuff in here.
I wish he would have been just in the film a little bit longer.
Just a little bit more.
Just a little bit.
And then one of my favorite people that I just have loved ever since I've discovered this man, Dan Stevens. He was in Legion, and I think that's where I really got to know him. And then, of course, when he pops up in anything, when I saw him here, I was like excited. Saw him in Godzilla Kong, super excited. And now he's the voice of Corvo on Solar Opposites. So I know that was jarring for people.
And that range that range.
Yeah.
Because in this movie, you hate him, but you love to hate him in this film.
Yeah.
I loved him.
He's such a likable guy.
Yeah, and I loved him in Godzilla Kong. Loved him in that. I didn't realize he had taken over in Solar Opposites. So that one.
Yeah, he is. He again. I know it's a jarring thing, but with me, I gave him time, and now I don't know if I could go back to old Corvo. You know what I mean?
Right.
Because that always sounded like it was a fraction away from Rick Sanchez.
Right.
Which, again, understandable. Same guy. But it always felt like it was just one step away. Now he has his own unique, I am Corvo. Yes, I am a solar opposite. Fuck you. It works. I don't know why. It just does.
It throws me off whenever I see Solar Opposites, the one younger alien, because the guy that does his voice was on that show, The Goldbergs. So that throws me every time. Because that's what I think of.
Especially when you hear him saying some foul-mouthed shit. It's just like, that little child is now a man.
I'm expected to see his mom pop up and wash his mouth out with soap or something.
Right. But two other actresses, obviously Melissa Barrera, we could go about her all day. I'm so glad. Like this right here. This showed that those radio silence guys were 100% with her, on her side, because they were like, fuck it, we'll work with her. And the fact that Universal didn't piss and moan about it either. You know?
Right.
At least there were some people just saying, you know what, the hell with it, who cares? And she's still working, so good.
Right. And one that we got to shout out, Catherine Newton-Sammy.
I was gonna throw her a bone because my wife she pointed out point blank. I think she finds her to be her new favorite actress because she loved her in Lisa Frankenstein. She loved her in this, and she popped up in, what did we watch? She popped up in something the other day, and she's like,
There's another movie she's in. There's another movie she's in that was really popular back in 2020 because it threw everybody for a curveball. Freaky.
Freaky, that's right. Oh, yeah. See, we're going to have to go back and watch Freaky. I bet you she's forgotten she was in that. It was Hacks, TV show.
Yeah.
Hacks. That's where we saw her pop up.
She's also in Ant-Man. I'm looking at her filmography. She was also in Ant-Man and the Wasp. Apparently she was in Detective Pikachu.
Yeah, I don't remember. But, I mean, now that I'm kind of thinking back on it, because has it been that long? 5 years since that movie came out? It's insane to think about.
Yeah. Well, Freaky, it's been 4 years.
Yeah,
which doesn't
seem that way.
Yeah, which I'm just like, and that's one of those movies I watched it and I wasn't sure how I'd feel about it because I didn't see a whole lot about it. Turn it on, probably one of my favorite movies, like hands down.
I want to go watch it now.
Yeah, right. Like,
I kind of really want to go watch it right now.
Just one of them movies that you're just like, hell yeah.
Yeah.
The only one that I don't know a whole lot about is Rickles.
Yeah, I don't know.
I liked him though. Like I really liked his. Is it Will Catlett? I think is his name.
Yep, I think that's correct.
I've not really seen a lot of the movies that he's been in, but it looks like he's been in a lot more like serious films. He was in that Lovecraft Country show as well.
Okay, so and I did watch Black Lightning. I see he's in that. I just don't. He's not. But like I can't. Nothing about him is firing up my brain. I'm gonna have to look up a picture and.
I really liked him in this though. I liked his character, and I feel like they did his character a little dirty. He's like they're all like, yeah, we're gonna get out of here because we need to get out. And then next thing you know, she walks over and his throat's been torn out. I'm like, Jesus.
Yeah.
That was another thing I liked about this movie, just how brutal Abigail was, and the line where she's like, I like to play with my food. Come on, that's just. It's brilliant.
Oh, yeah. I mean, I think that's what actually helped sell the movie is I think you needed that brutality because, I mean, obviously the Radio Silence Boys have not skimped on that. I mean, from everything they've done thus far. But I don't know, because she is a child. So you need that juxtaposition of something so brutal and her being so nonchalant about it, being like, I'm going to play, like you said, play with my food and just that weird teasing of this child
and her dancing,
doing this shit to you.
Yeah, her dancing around. And I'm sorry, but I'm going to say this. I feel like every horror film should have just a touch of comedy. Just have just a funny moment or two because it makes the audience comfortable and they get that false sense of security and then boom, something happens. Like one of my favorite scenes, I've got a few funny scenes in this film that I'm just going to talk about two of them real quick. I love when Peter is running, and he closes the door. He's like, I got a trap behind the door. And she just busts through the door, and he screams like a girl. He's like, ah! And he's on the radio running. He's like, she's right behind me. Everything about that scene. I'm laughing my ass off, but I'm also thinking in the back of my mind, you better fucking run, dude. You better run.
But it works because it's the big dude. You know,
Yeah.
It just doesn't seem to work. And then it's like, all right, well, yeah.
And then when she is fighting with everybody and Frank falls on the floor and she grabs Frank's leg and she starts flying. He's like, the fucking bitch is flying. I don't know if it was, and I know I didn't do it justice, but his accent and how just, he's any other person that would be in that situation. He's confused as all get out. Like, what is happening?
Mm-hmm.
I'm sitting there laughing about it. I'm like, I'm sorry, but it is kind of funny.
Yeah.
And I love that they don't, in a sense, they don't show a ton of her supernatural abilities. You know, you see her fly,
Mm-hmm.
and you see her possess someone, use them as, you know, her puppet. But it didn't feel out of place. It gave you like a taste of what she's capable of. And that was something that I really liked. I also liked how violent the sun affected the vampires and how violent killing, you know, they explode when you stake them. Like, come on. That's just, to me, that is brilliant. And when Abigail's hand explodes and she crawls back and it starts to grow back, and it looks like it's extremely painful while it's growing back and everything. There's just something about that whole scene and the way that those things play out. I'm like, this is really brutal. Being a vampire is really brutal.
Yeah.
So I really liked that. And I also love the fact that I believe it's Catherine Newton's character, Sammy. When Sammy's, you know, stalking them and they use that tray to direct the sunlight to hit her. Very creative kill.
Oh, yeah. 100%.
They make jokes about that in movies, about if reflecting the light will work. Like, I've heard jokes like that in movies. So the fact that they did that, and there wasn't even a second thought about it, and she just explodes, and they're just kind of like, like, it's perfect.
Yeah. No, there's a lot of good stuff in this movie. I think, you know, there's even a bit of understanding, like, because we haven't really talked about the human stuff. I mean, with Joey, you know, she's kind of got her problems. She's kind of an addict, and she's had some issues, I guess, being away from her son. I guess, I'm assuming, did they go into great detail? Like, she lost her custody of her son or something like that because of the drug addiction?
From what my understanding was, she just took off because she didn't feel like she could be the best mom to him. And she didn't want him to see her like that. And she wanted to get she wanted to get the money so that she could, you know, fix things. And to me, it sounded like she wanted to just take her son and go away somewhere and, you know, use the money so that they would have a better life.
Right. So they kind of have like a team up at the end, kind of have an understanding.
Yeah.
Because I guess it's the what do you call it? There's the term where you kind of become pals with your kidnapper or something. You know what I mean? It's
a syndrome.
Yeah.
Of some kind.
Syndrome of the stupid. I can't remember. God damn it. My brain is just not working on all cylinders. But anyway, it's kind of a touching little thing that they have, and allows her to Stockholm syndrome. There we go. Thank you. That does sound familiar. So it was nice to kind of have that little team up at the end, because Abigail is a fun character, and I'm glad they didn't finish her off completely, because as you said, it would be fun to see this character again, but I just don't know if her age will allow it if they don't get up on it.
Yeah.
And I'm not sure that we need a sequel, but it would be fun to play in the sandbox again, I think.
Yeah, I would just love to know what became of, like, Joey's character and things. And I know that Melissa Barrera has even said that she would love to see what happened. She's like, part of me hoped that when Joey got home, Joey would have become a vampire.
Mm-hmm.
She's like, but that wouldn't have made sense for the story. I'm like, well,
sure,
true. And, you know, I feel like they I like the way that they, like, did the backstories of the characters, how Joey just kind of spilt everybody's dirty laundry, because you get enough information about the characters to where you feel like you know them to a degree, but you don't know them that well. I appreciated that because the setting of it was they didn't want everybody to know very much information about them. Mm-hmm. And so it makes you feel like you're a part of that group at that point. Like, you know just as much as they do about the situation. But I definitely enjoyed this movie a lot more than I thought I would, and I don't even think I would consider it a horror movie in the sense of what people look at as horror movies. I would consider it more of like a horror action movie to a degree.
Sure, I could.
You didn't really get a lot of jump scares or anything like that. You know, I was on the edge of my seat at certain parts, but it wasn't because I was scared. It was because I was anticipating what was going to happen next with the fights and things like that.
Yeah.
So
I had a lot of fun with it. I kind of agree with what you're saying. I don't feel like it really fits within the conventions of a typical horror movie because it's not presented like a typical horror movie. In fact, it kind of subverts all that if you think about it, because it's usually the people go to a place and then they get killed because they're not supposed to be there. Here, they have brought the monster to them, and then the monster gets free and is like, I'm going to fuck you all up for being stupid.
And
so
I want to say
fun twist.
I want to say one more thing about Matthew Good as well. I know you've not seen the Constantine movie with Keanu Reeves. I know we've kind of talked. Okay, so you have.
It's been a long time, so I couldn't tell you shit about it.
So I can't think of his name, but the actor that played the devil.
Peter Stormare.
Thank you. Who is a phenomenal actor. I'm just terrible with names. Love the guy as an actor.
Always seems to play a Russian person of some sort.
A lot of people say that he's got one of the best on-screen performances as the devil, even though it's a very short scene. And when I saw him as the devil in that movie, even though it was a very short scene, it made me want to see him as that character more. I'm going to say the same thing of Matthew Good. Seeing him in this scene, because he wasn't in the movie very long at all, but seeing him as Lazar at the end there made me want to see him as that character more. It cemented in my mind that he's up there with vampire performances. I'm going to put him up there. And everything about that scene was just extremely tense. Thinking he's going to kill Joey. Seeing the remorse on his face when he told Abigail, I'm here now. All of that. Mm-hmm. But the thing that really sold it to me was when he kissed Joey's hand, because there's the seductive side of vampires. He's kissing her hand, but then you see that snarl build up on his face because he's fighting the bloodlust. He's fighting the urge to feed on her. And he tells her, it's getting awfully close to dinner time and that she should leave. Everything about that just works so well that, I am all for this guy playing a vampire again. I would like to see him play Lazar again, but playing a vampire of any kind. Like I said, he's played one in that Discovery of Witches show. I think it's on Netflix, but it's more of a prim and proper vampire. I want to see him as the vampire that can snap and turn into a monster. So
sure. I would want to hazard a guess that they hired him for a very specific purpose. Because like you said, he was barely in the movie. So I would like to think that they cast him with the idea in mind that maybe we could get him committed to doing another thing should we get to that point. Because that, again, I know he's not like up there with the most A-tier level actors. He's still more of a character actor that people might or might not know. But again, very, very specific casting. And that's kind of what I was surprised by. So, yeah, I'd love to see him again.
He's just phenomenal. Mm-hmm. But I don't have anything else on this movie other than just to say it's something that you should definitely give a watch if you haven't watched it yet, because it's definitely an interesting movie.
Yeah, absolutely. So, Ramblers, have you seen Abigail? What did you think about it? Let us know on social media at Horror Ramblings, or send us an email at horrorramblings@gmail.com. If you want to discuss horror with people just like yourself, join our Facebook group or join us on Discord. You can even find us on Instagram or TikTok. And if you're feeling generous, you can head on over to patreon.com/pencilpaperproductions. Leave the 5-star reviews on your favorite podcasting app. And check out and see if we've posted any questions and polls over on Spotify. And keep up with any and all things over at pencilpaperproductions.com/horror-ramblings. Links are in the show notes down below.
And remember, guys, stay spooky out there.
This has been the Horror Ramblings podcast. Join us next time for even more.
This has been a Pencil and Paper Podcast Network production.